Alright, hey guys, what's up? It's Alex from Mutated Percussion. So today we are going to be continuing the Orff series.
Orff!
And I am repairing a Sonor Orff xylophone. So let's get into it. Okay, the first thing I am doing is removing this random nail somebody put in there to replace the correct missing peg. Next, I'm unthreading the tubing from around the nails. This helps when it's just out of the way. Now I like to just make sure it's constantly vacuumed out. That way you can just make sure that there's as little mess in there as possible. I usually continue to do it as I go. Keep in mind, it doesn't matter what order you do these things in, I just happen to do it this way here. Now what I'm doing is I'm removing these messed up pegs. If you can't remove them with the claw end of a hammer or pry them out, then you can always just cut off the top parts and then drill out the rest in there. There's usually a little nub that is still on there when you cut it off, so it's important to just try and sand that down as much as possible. This helps the drill from sliding around when you're trying to get the rest of it out. Next, what I'm doing here is I'm removing the wood pieces from the ends. You have to do this really carefully because they will break easily. So you just have to pry it off kind of gingerly and then just remove the staples from the old tubing because I do believe we are replacing it here. It's also a good idea to make sure you sand off any old glue. That way when you put the wood pieces back on with the new glue, it goes on easier. Alright, now I am putting the new tubing on. I'm trying to use a staple gun, but it just does not work. So I ended up using some small thin nails that I had just laying around. And what I did was that I put both ends on the same side and nailed it down. And then what I'm doing is that after each peg, I am twisting the tubing. This gives it more padding for the bars so they don't end up hitting the actual resonator box. Then I'm folding the tubing over again at the other end. I'm putting another nail in there. Now I am putting wood glue in each of the holes that I removed those old pegs from. This way the glue gets in there really well for the new pegs and they're able to stick in there easily. Now I'm going to do the same thing here that I did with the other side for the tubing. Luckily, I did actually have one that was already connected together on one end, so that was pretty nice for this other side. But still needed to fold it over and nail in the other part. Now I'm just putting a kind of generous amount of glue there on the end for the small wood piece. And I'm going to try and clamp it down, but I believe ultimately the clamps were not able to reach that distance, so I end up actually nailing both sides down. And of course you want to make sure you're wiping up any excess glue just because it's going to drip. Since I knew the clamps weren't going to work, I figured the glue would just help secure it more. And I went ahead and put 4 nails in on this side to go ahead and secure it down. I will admit these nails are actually for the Orff glockenspiels, but these ones had the rubber insulating parts on there. They were completely destroyed, so they were just naked nails, so I figured that they would be good for this. Alright, and that's it right there. Now to put the bars back on. That's the last one. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me for this week. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know if you got anything out of the video. Until then, I'll see you guys next week.